Welcome back to another episode of the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast. This is episode 111. I hope everyone is having a great day, great night, wherever you are around the world. It's a pleasure to be with you guys again. On tonight's guest for the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast, we have Morgan Pagel. She is the host of Keeping Up with Kashhh. It's so great to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you so much for having me here, Joey. So excited to be here.
Absolutely. Nice little podcast collab. I haven't really done any podcast collabs with another podcaster, so I think this is going to be fun. I'm excited.
Oh my gosh, yay, first one.
No, I'm excited. So,
Love it.
I always like my guests to introduce themselves, just kind of a little introduction to yourself. So take it away.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I don't even know where to start. I guess my name is Morgan Pagel. I have a podcast called Keeping Up with Kashhh. I'm originally from Green Bay, Wisconsin, but I'm currently in Missouri. I just started my own business as a social media manager, things like that. I have a fear of eyeballs. I love the Packers. I don't really know. I think that's pretty much it. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So I want everyone to kind of get to know a little bit about Keeping Up with Kashhh. So where did the podcast idea even start for you?
Yeah, great question. So actually in college, I studied communication studies, really fell in love with broadcasting, thought I was going to go down the sports journalism route. I did some of that in college, but then I was also introduced to radio. So started actually having my own radio show at Evangel. And I would invite a bunch of athletes on there and interview them, which led me to interning at a local radio station in town where I was a co-host. And then just realized I'm not a morning person. I don't love certain aspects of radio. And then a few years later, a friend of mine, we were doing a vintage shoot together, and he was like, how cool would it be if you started a podcast again and you interviewed people about, their goals or what they've gone through and their stories. And I was really inspired in that moment. So around 2.5 years ago, I was like, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to write down my vision, my goal, my brand identity, really take my time and put in the work to something that I really believe in and love. And so I listen to so many podcasts and YouTube channels, and I would look up things like, okay, well, this is for the spiritual side of me. This is for the humor. This is for advice. This is for lifestyle. And I'm like, well, what if there's a place where I could kind of just morph everything that I'm looking for and that I find interesting or that sticks out to me, and put it into one big place. So it's hard because, as you know, as a podcast host, you're supposed to niche up really good. And I feel like for me, it's more so okay, it's like a Christian lifestyle podcast. But besides that, there's really no niche. So I think, it's been so cool because of that. But also it's definitely can be difficult in terms of growth, so.
Absolutely. No, you brought up some really good points there. I have the same exact, feelings and style that you have. I don't really have a specific niche. I really focus a lot on sports, but I do like to talk a lot about pop culture. And sometimes, we'll kind of go off the deep end and just start randomly talking about what do you think of aliens? But I just think
absolutely,
if you have fun with it, I think that's the most important part. The niche stuff is really important, but I think that stuff can also come later too, once you're on a higher level, just as a whole. But
yeah,
just seeing what you've been able to put out so far is really awesome. And I've been following along now for the past few weeks, and actually we even connected through Caden Cox, the owner of
we did.
That was awesome.
Oh yeah, and we have some talks of trying to collaborate and stuff like that. And I like one thing you said, the biggest thing about podcasts is really consistency. 11% of people make it past 5 episodes, which is a crazy stat. So really the fact that you're at 111 episodes and I'm going to be at episode 60, it's to us. I'm just kidding, because there's people you don't do it for the money. Eventually it can come, but it's you have to do it because you love it. So yeah.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir. No, that's exactly correct. I tell some of my friends, I'm like, I don't make any money off this, but I love it, and I get to put myself out there, and people get this, see, you get to showcase ourselves, and what's better than that, right? At least we have the confidence to put ourselves out there. A lot of people will just sit behind the camera or just sit behind their phone and just keyboard warrior and just make all these comments, but what are they doing? Where's their podcast?
Exactly. And then we always say too, it's the one person that messages you that's hey, this seriously impacted me. This spoke to me. I'm going to go to church, or I'm going to go I'm, my mental health, or whatever it is, whatever it may be. You're wow, the fact that you were able to reach one person, worth it, worth
Absolutely.
It. So.
No, that's a great point too. I mean, just that one person could change their entire day. You don't know what that person's been going through. You don't know where they even live, but you could have just inspired them by just one little clip or just listening to an episode. And it's just great having those like loyal fans, and I'm sure you have loyal fans as well. And they're like, when are you going to put that out? And you're like,
Right.
you listen to me? Or, you see somebody
Yeah.
from high school and they're like, I listen to your podcast. And I'm like, you do? They're like, yeah, I do. And I'm like,
yeah,
wow, so
it's so crazy. I just got back from church camp in Wisconsin, and I was a counselor, and literally like some of the girls that were there, I must have met them last year, or I don't even remember. I have short-term memory loss, so I'm like, I don't even remember half these things that happened. But this girl was like, I listen to your episodes every week, and I'm like,
what?
I don't even know who you are. Like, thank you. Send me your address. Let's get you some merch. Like,
yeah, let's talk about your merch.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I saw you have some merch, so let's talk about that.
Yeah, merch is hard. I applaud like Kate and all of them for how consistent they are and stuff like that. And I think for me, like around almost over a year ago, I released some trucker hats. I wanted something small, just like something. But I know for me, like I'm a solopreneur, right? Like I have a team of great friends, but I didn't study like business as much. So like learning a lot of that side has been like a new challenge for me a little bit, and then really having to just take the time outside of work and all my things to learn. But essentially the merch, there's like 3 different designs. I'm wearing the college one right now, but I love ping pong. And I was like, well, I have so many great guy friends. Like my brand is really for everybody. I wanted like keeping up with Kashhh is your keeping up with Kashhh. Like it's just like, it's for everyone. So me and a friend of mine, we kind of outsourced together for my social media business as well. Like I'll creative direct, and she's a graphic designer. And so we just like went at it and sent her a bunch of stuff, and we went back and forth. And then ultimately we had like 3 different designs. I came up with a catchphrase, and we're always like plotting new things. But yeah, so then we had a huge merch drop and things like that. I don't know. Merch is hard. Like I'm still trying to figure out how to, I don't know, like
that's awesome.
Figure things out. But yeah, we sold a lot of pieces locally, trying to expand and get things bigger so we can get more people in different states some merch. But it's weird seeing so many people like buy 4 sweatshirts and you're like, oh my gosh, you like them that much? But I think that just shows like it took us we started the design process last May, and then we didn't launch them till March. So it really took a lot of time to figure out like the kind of sweatshirt material I want, the designs, the right screen printer, like just everything, how we wanted to roll it out, when we wanted to do it. And then of course you have life in between. And so just kind of, I gave myself a lot of grace where I was like, you know what, this is going to be fun. Obviously there's business elements, but if it's not fun, like this is the passion project. If this isn't fun for me, what's the point, Yeah. So it is really awesome, like seeing people want to wear them. And I feel like it's because of that season of like really waiting and figuring out, well, what's the highest quality thing? Like what's the best design? Like not rushing it is the reason why people buy it, I feel like, So
that's great points. And I wanted to ask you, so what's the next step with the merch? Like, as you have the crew necks and you have the hats, are the t-shirts in the works, or how's that work out for you?
Great question. Yeah, lots of things on the works. Recently, I had people want camo hoodies, so I'm trying to navigate that, but I'm like, there's no wholesale camo hoodies that are good anywhere, but I'm trying to figure it out. I'm also going to do a thrifted collection, so things are going to be really one of one, kind of going a bit more in the sustainable route of, I love vintage clothes, so thrifting like jeans, flannels, different shirts like that, and getting some of that screen printed. I've had a lot of requests for t-shirts, so that's probably going to be along the way. But yeah, we're just taking things day by day, just always trying to be better. And I feel like you probably feel the same way too, where you're always just like, my videos aren't good enough, or this isn't good enough. But then I'm like, Morgan, shut up. You didn't even have half this stuff a year ago. So I'm like,
No,
but
I can relate to that. I can attest to that 100%. I feel the exact same way. I don't even have merch yet. That's still in the works.
Hey, but you got it though. Like
I have a website, but merch is in the works. I still need to make new business cards for that. So it's a lot, and you understand it too. It's just like, especially being a sole proprietor, being a self-entrepreneur, doing it all on yourself. And I'm sure you have, friends and stuff that help you out. But me, I basically do it all on my own, and it's a lot.
Right.
Of work. My friends are like, "You're not going out tonight?" I'm like, "Nah, do you want to hang out?" I'm like, "I gotta knock this stuff out. Like, this is my passion. This is what I love." So, it
costs so much money too. Like people have no idea. Like my first year of the podcast, I always say the podcast was very healing for me, because my senior year of college, I was going through really massive amounts of like heartbreak, healing from toxic situations, and a puking problem. And so when I hit my 1 year, like God had healed me from my puking problem. I really like had grown from all the, done therapy, all that stuff. Like I was like in a good place, but I wanted to celebrate with everyone that supported the podcast and really like came along with me. And so I got a venue. We did a black tie. Like everyone kept being like, I'll be there. But like, what happens at a podcast party? And I'm like, I have no idea.
I have no idea.
I have no idea. But I was like, we have to do this because I have to get my name out there. And like, people have to know what the heck this is. And I'm so glad we did, because everyone was like, what is this black tie event? Like what? And we did, I just went through like metrics, analytics, my goals, and like telling everybody what I wanted actually led me to so many connections. I got connected with Missouri State football team and did stuff with them and like all these other people and stuff like that. So even though it's not monetary, I've gained so many things from the podcast. And I'm just so grateful that I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I have this, because that and the business go hand in hand, or like people invite you places because of the podcast or whatever it may be. And so I don't know, I'm always just like, bet on yourself, do something crazy. Like, don't think about what other people think, which is so hard, but I think it pays off. So
yeah, I mean, I think you made some great points there. Absolutely. I mean, I'm a big believer in you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. If you don't,
that's right,
you're never gonna know. I'm a big sports guy. I'm sure you've seen some of the clips and stuff, and just a lot about the podcast. But Lamar Jackson bet on himself when he was for the Ravens. I mean, he didn't even hire an agent. He stuck with himself. Aaron Judge bet on himself with the Yankees with his contract.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, you just have to bet on yourself and believe in yourself and keep pushing, because you don't know who's going to see that clip. You don't know who's going to even click on it, So it's just, especially in the world we live in, everything is so social media driven. I'm sure, you understand that as well. So,
especially too when you're young. Like I have a business owner friend here in town who's probably in his upper 40s, and he's super successful. Like their business is doing so well. And I was telling him like, hey, I'm going to start my own business. I'll work part-time to pay the bills. Like I'm going to grind, because I know I want to be remote and travel and kind of be my own boss. And he was like, do it now, because you could start and fail 5 times in your 20s and it doesn't matter. And I feel like that's what people are so afraid to hear in their 20s. It's like, fail. At least you tried, because I can't imagine like the only thing scarier than failing is not trying. And I think that should be like the fire underneath our seat, is just try. So I don't know.
No, I love that too, because I actually just moved back from California about 5 months ago. I lived in LA for about 18 months or so, and I wouldn't say
we have to ask you how that is, because I almost took a job in December in LA, and so we need. I want to hear your side of that. So
I'll give you the tea. So I actually moved out there right before I graduated college, and then I stayed there for right around 9 months or so, and then I lost my job while I came home. I lost my job while I was still in Florida. It was around Christmas time. They laid me off, and I was like, well, I can't go back to LA now. Like, what do I do? So I stayed home for a few months, and then finally I ended up going back out to LA, because that was my purpose. I really wanted to live in LA my entire life. Moved back out there, didn't have a job, moved back into my apartment with barely any money, just booked a one-way ticket and went back. Had like 3 weeks left of my lease, and then found a job through Fashion Nova, through like a headhunter, basically working in like their warehouse. Then got moved up into Fashion Nova, worked with them for 9 months, and then I figured that God is calling me to come back home. This is where I really want to be, and this is where I wanted to build my brand and make my legacy. And this is where I'm at today. So I mean, it was great for me. I had a really good time out there. Made some really cool friends. Got a chance to really build the podcast out there as well. But it just really wasn't for me as a whole. In my mind, I was like, oh, I love this place, But sometimes, like how you said, in your 20s, you're going to fail. And you're going to make mistakes. But for me, what I realized is sometimes what you think is in your best interest is not always in your best interest.
That's good. That's really good.
I had to make a really big financial decision. I was like, I can't afford to live here. Like, what am I doing? Like, am I just living in a fantasy world? Is this really for me? Or I can be, anywhere else. Because, while I was out there, I was, there's nowhere else exists in the world other than LA. No, it does. There's a lot of other places.
Right.
So I'm glad that I lived out there. It was a great experience. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, the weather's beautiful. The food's great. It's just super expensive.
Yeah.
So expensive.
Yeah. And dangerous.
That too. Fun place to visit. But yeah, I'm just an East Coast guy through and through. It's hard to go through that change, especially living on the East Coast your entire life and then moving to the West Coast where you don't have any family. You only have a few friends. The time change, everything is completely different. The landscape, the layout, the people. So East Coast through and through.
Yeah. Which Florida's beautiful. So
beautiful.
you know?
It's really hot down here in the summertime. Oh
yeah.
Gosh, the humidity down here in the summer is horrible. People come to like, oh, I want to come visit you in the summer. I'm like, do you really want to come down here and visit in the summer? It's really freaking hot. get used to being in a pool. So where do you live? You live in?
So I'm in Springfield, Missouri. So I'm from Wisconsin. So I initially left because it was so cold there. And then I like humidity. So, I mean, I love Florida, but I did just go to Wisconsin this past weekend. And it was weird. Like, I'm always like, Wisconsin. But low-key, I was like, man, it's kind of nice here. Like, I mean, the winters are so brutal, but there's a charm there. And I don't know, it was hard leaving. And I think I so resonate with you because I would have all these plans, right? I'm like, I want to go to Australia. I want to travel the world. I want to do this. Like, I'm in my 20s. I'm not, I live in this place where like everyone my age has 2 kids already, and I'm like, I'm 25. Like, like, whoa. But I know. And so it's just kind of the thing where I really feel like it's like, I'm just like surrendering all to God. And I'm like, you know what? You know best. I know worst. Like, if you want to build the podcast here, you want me to do, witness and be kind and help spread the gospel, like, let's do it, but it is really just like trusting in God, because it's hard. Like, there's, like you said, you can be somewhere and not have friends, or like not be content in certain areas. And so just kind of being like, it's not about me right now. I don't know what the plan is, but I'm just happy I'm here, I guess, healthy. Like, I don't know.
Fun. Could you ever see yourself moving back home and just, building a life there? Or do you
so it's weird because I would definitely say no because it's so cold. But after visiting this past weekend, I mean, I don't know about Green Bay. I mean, love the Packers, Jordan Love all the way. But I don't know. I mean, no, I'm not a Chiefs fan. No, Jordan Love actually lives like in the couple neighborhoods across from my house. So whenever I go home, I like walk my dog and I like fake fall in front of his house. Just in case he
That's funny.
He's really heroic. So I mean, not even like that. Like, his girlfriend's beautiful, but neighbor, just want a picture with my QB. So, I don't know though if that's what God said. I have so many really great friends at home, like in that area, that it wouldn't be the worst thing if it did happen. But I don't know. I really don't know. So,
hey, you never know where God's going to call you. You never know where you're going to be in 6 months. You don't know where you're going to be in 3 months. You never know. But as long as you just keep having fun and stay true to yourself and level-headed, that's the most important part. Like you said, we're in our 20s, we're young. Like,
exactly. Let's
just have fun, like you said. If you're gonna fail,
right,
you're gonna fail. Okay, as long as you can learn from those mistakes. So, but
that's right.
I never got a chance to ask you, where did the name Keeping Up with Kashhh come from?
Yeah. So I get that one a lot because my name is Morgan. The government name is Morgan. It's weird because like everyone in Missouri calls me Kashhh. Like, it was like after high school. So basically, the answer is like not that deep either. I was like in middle school, I think, and I just like needed a new Instagram username. And Vine was super big, so there was a girl like named Kashhh Money Morgan with a C on Vine, and then that was taken on Instagram, so I did it with a K. But if you know my personality, like if you met me in real life, and I mean obviously we're meeting in real life, but like if you hung out with me and played me in ping pong and that kind of thing, you can just tell my personality is very just like And so, I don't know, it just kind of, like my Sweet 16 was like a money-themed birthday. I don't know, it's just been like the nickname. And then when I came to college, like everyone in high school called me Morgan or Mo or stuff like that. When I came to college, it was like Kashhh. Yeah. And so everyone in Missouri pretty much calls me that for the most part. And then I went back to church camp in Wisconsin and everyone's like, Morgan. And it's just like different. But I don't know, like it's just a nickname. Part of me is like, this is probably kind of cringy, but I'm in too deep at this point. So I don't know. I mean, it's not really profound, but it's my nickname. But I'm the kind of chick that figure out a way to get on stage, and it's just like, I'm going to have fun. And I'm not like an alter ego, but it's just kind of like, that's my personality.
I mean,
I don't
know. I can relate because my podcast name is called the Inquisitive Mamba, and you're probably like,
there you go.
Where the hell did that name come from? My high school basketball coach gave me the nickname. He said Inquisitive because you ask so many damn questions. Is exactly what he said per word. And then Mamba from Kobe because Kobe was in the NBA at the time, and you put those two together, and that's where you get the name. So I feel like people ask me like, Inquisitive Mamba. Yep, that's the podcast name, and I'm not changing it now.
Yeah.
I've done so many episodes. Why would I change it? And that's the thing too. Why would you change? You wouldn't want to change your name. It makes you unique. That's what makes you stand out.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing too where I've seen debates on, when you have a unique name, it can be harder to find on Apple or Spotify. But also, like, if you're in Springfield, Missouri, and you hear Keeping Up with Kashhh, they're like, oh, I know that's the podcast girl. This and this. They'll be like, oh, Morgan Pagel. They're like, who's that? They're like, who is that? Oh, Kashhh, the podcast. And so my business name is Kashhh Creative for my social media and stuff like that. So it really like goes hand in hand. And I mean, I don't know for other podcasts and stuff, but like in terms of combining like business and podcast, it's been really helpful for me. Like people, so I don't know if anyone, I recommend that ever. Like if you ever have your own business or something like that, kind of integrating the podcast with it, because it's been a good tool for like helping me get clients or like selling products or things like that. So
that's awesome. That's some great advice right there too, because some people even ask, oh, well, how do I start a podcast? Or, oh, if I have a business, should I make a podcast? And you're just giving some great tips there for free.
Right. I'm selling a guide, you guys. I'm selling a guide. Link coming soon.
So we got to talk about this. You were on TV, so that was pretty cool. You were on Fox 49, is that correct?
Caller 10. So probably, but
I did some research.
Not me not knowing, like.
No, I did some research on Instagram and I saw. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that was pretty cool.
Thank you. I was trained in college because I did broadcasting. No, I'm just playing. So the way that connection actually happened was around a year before. I'd actually messaged one of the co-hosts being like, hey, would you want to be on the podcast? And that was in my like cold calling, cold interview era, which you're always in. Like you're always in that era. But back then I didn't know like anybody. So I didn't know like anyone. So I was just like always DMing, always in people's LinkedIn DMs. And so him and I, we like did not know each other at all. We kind of chatted a little bit, invited him to the podcast party, and then he couldn't come. And then after the party, that was around last year, we just kind of like, I ended up switching jobs and had burnout, and I was just trying to fight for my life to like keep the podcast. And so it just got like lost in translation. And then after this year, I don't even remember exactly when I went on, but I just got a random DM from him, like out of the blue, being like, hey, would you want to co-host and do a segment for your podcast? Which I was like, absolutely, I want to. Like, we're doing the party, we're releasing merch. And God works everything out, because he was in a position where his co-host was going through some stuff. So he was like getting guests all the time, but we had never met each other. And then we pull up and we ended up becoming like really great friends. So he's so great. Shout out to Blake Haynes and Kerrigan. You guys rock. And I've been able to go on there a few times. So they're awesome. They're a great crew. And I don't know, God's good and everything works out in timing. But yeah, that one I definitely did not have on my bingo card this year. But that was really fun. And I don't know why I was like so afraid of going on TV, but just make it work. So
I just think with all the cameras and all, like, just, getting mic'd up and this and that, because like when you're not controlling it, you feel a little bit different, like with
right.
So you sit there like, oh, I got this all, and then when you see like the cameras and all the TV stuff, you're like, this is happening.
Right. And like on my podcast, I do like go through and edit things, and so it's just like you can't be editing and whatnot, and so I'm just like, okay, think of things on the fly. Like I can't prep for it the way that they get to prep. But we definitely, sometimes when you go in the news, you get crazy people in your DMs. I mean, definitely happened a few times, but I'm like, okay. Like, whatever.
All right. Give it to us. Craziest DM you've ever received. If you can't say it, I got you, but give us some sort of tea.
Okay. Well, this isn't even like that crazy, but definitely just the first thing that came to my mind was I was following this guy because I thought he would be interesting for a podcast. Like sometimes I'll do that. I'll be like, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting. I'll just like, but like, I'm sure you do this too. You probably just like follow a bunch of random people, right? Like, and you don't think about it. Like, no. I mean, whatnot. And so I was following him. He followed me back, whatever. And like, we probably follow each other for like, I don't know, 8 or 9 months. And one of these days I was like, oh, I'll just like reach out and ask him if he wants to do a pod or whatever. And he just like DM'd me one day. I think I probably like put a selfie on my story, and he just DM'd me, and he's like, all he says, just a random DM, like not a reply or anything, just a DM. And he says, you look at my stories a lot. That's what he said. And I was just like, what? And everybody, it was so out of pocket. It kind of worked though a little bit, because I was so like, and so I responded and I just said, I feel like I look at your stories a regular amount. And then we kind of had a quick chat, and then he said the word giggle. And then I was like, I got the ick, and I like never. That always sounds so shallow, but like,
See, with the where you were going, I thought sounded like he was trying to slide in the DMs.
No, he was. That's what he.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He said like you look at my stories a lot, and then he was like trying to come for me, which definitely was him trying to slide. And then I said something like, "LOL." I actually thought that was kind of funny. Like it was so different. And then he's like, "Good, anything to make you giggle." And that's when I was like, "I'm out." I was like, "I'm good." Yeah, so it wasn't even that crazy out of pocket. I mean, I think one of the craziest things was I posted shoes once on Facebook Marketplace, and I had someone being like, "How much for the toes, though?" or something crazy. But that's just like girl world.
There's some weird people on the internet, and I still can't.
Yeah.
I still can't. Sometimes I can't put it together. I really can't.
Yeah, I'm like, I can't morally monetize on that, but I'm like this,
So, yeah, honestly. So just going about like podcast guests and your marketing, how do you go about like getting your guests? Do you still do the whole cold calling, or do you still like if you meet somebody in person? Because I feel like in-person podcasts are harder than doing remote, because if you just reach out to somebody and you don't live in the same state, you can't get to them and they can't get to you, you can just hop on the computer, kind of like how we're doing now. So like, how do you go about the whole way of connecting with people to getting them on the podcast?
Yeah, great question. So I feel like God's been really good to me, because I think in the beginning stages there were a few weeks that I was freaked out, and I don't know how often you do yours. I mean, I do mine every other week, which is good for me because it allows me to like live life a little bit and meet people and kind of it's not like this pressure. But in the beginning, I definitely was like reaching out to people on Instagram or LinkedIn. I actually met one of my greatest mentors by reaching out to her, and then she connected me to like 10 other people. So that was a huge one. But I don't know. A lot of times I do meet people in real life. And so sometimes it's like, what has happened a lot is I'll get someone on the podcast that I'll meet just like really organically. And then they're like, "Oh my gosh, you got to get this person on the podcast." And then it's like, I get that. And then they're like, "You got to get this person on." And so it's kind of like this ripple effect. Or I just honestly will like live my life. Like I'll be in social media and I'll see like just something on my Facebook and I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, like this story is so inspiring. Like, will you please get on?" Like that happens a lot. I don't really like using Facebook or Snapchat and stuff like that. But once in a while, I'll like see something someone post and I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, we have to get you on." And so sometimes I will travel, like depending on how far away it is, if I can make it work or whatnot for the right, whatever, like I'll travel. But I need to get better too at like remote stuff too, because this is fun. And but yeah, for the most part, like, and I it's hard because I love girly pop episodes. I love serious episodes. So I don't know, like some people like more things more than the other. I don't know. So, I mean, I haven't had a problem in a while, but also it's like the podcast is growing. So as a podcast girl, as more people know about it, your network grows. But Springfield, Missouri actually has a huge group of like creatives, which
that's awesome.
You wouldn't really expect. Like, I think there's way more than Green Bay and stuff like that. And so I'm always like, well, this person does this vintage film. Like there's a huge film industry here. Like it's wild. So I don't know. I just try to like plug into a lot of local downtown things or whatnot. And then I kind of like know what's going on a little bit, so.
Honestly too, like it's using it like to your best advantage, like being strategical. It's smart. Like even if you don't want to like go out that night, even if you just go and you didn't even think you were going to go to the event or something, and there you are, plug in the podcast, or you're saying, "Hey, I do this," and then you meet that person and like, "Well, I do the same thing," or we're in similar spaces. And you connect, like you said, and I think that's a really good way to do it too. And I think like being more personal about it as well. I mean, like like DMs are fun and stuff, but like meeting somebody in person, obviously, is so much better. Like if we could meet in person, it would have been great. But hey, I mean, I think it's going great.
We're saving some money, so
DMs though, but like DMs are like they're not bad, but like I just really like meeting somebody in person.
Yeah.
But or too, like you said, if you can have somebody like set it up for you, I think it becomes so much more like it becomes easier. It flows a lot better because the person already knows that they're reaching out to me. I already had their friend talk to me, or so on and so forth. So
the key too is to not be afraid to do stuff alone. Like that's one thing I got over when I was in college. I was like, I have to eat dinner in the cafeteria. I got like no one else can go. I just have to do it by myself. And so I will go to certain events alone or like certain things alone because I'm like, I'll just make friends when I get there. Like
I'm the exact same way.
Okay.
So you're not.
Well, your podcast though, so I feel like you kind of have to be that way a little bit. So
I've always been like that though. I can literally into just go alone, just go out for a night and just make friends. And my friends are like, yep, that's Joey. He's going to make friends.
Yeah.
He went alone. That's just how he is. And like I can, see the similar type with you. You walk into a room, you have fun. I didn't even think I was going to go to that. Here I am. And I made 5 friends.
Exactly.
But it's the personality too. If you're a dud walking into a room, if you already have like a piss poor attitude or you're negative about it, you're not going to have fun.
Right. And it's always kind of seeing things as like, I'll go into rooms and sometimes I see them as like opportunities or, like does this, from like the spiritual side is like, do these people know Jesus? Like, have they ever had kindness in their life? Like, how can I be like a light or a friend? The business side, it's like, they don't know how I'm coming. Like, they don't know what I have to offer. Like, I don't know. So I always kind of walk in the room just kind of being like, they don't know yet, or I don't know. So.
Well, no, too, another thing, even when I go out now and if I meet people, I honestly, I tell them, like, I introduce myself. I'm Joey Munroe. We're going to have a podcast. Like, it just, it gives me something that I can tell them about me, similar with you, because I don't know who I'm going to meet. That person could change my life or they could be, a big supporter or just however. But yeah, I really just go about that and I go, yeah, I have a podcast. I go, really, you do? And then I show them the clip or show them, something that I've done. And it's a good marketing tool too.
Yeah, 100%. Have you run into anything yet where people are like really, really trying to get on, but it doesn't like match your brand or anything?
Oh, all the time. And I feel bad. And I'm not trying to sound, cocky, but yes, but I also have to realize that you have something that they want because you have a platform and they want to be able to hop on it. You've already put the hard work in. Don't just bring on some random Joe Schmo because he's got 1,000 followers on Instagram. What is he bringing to the table? Does he have a following? Does he have an audience? Or does he have a following? Does he have something that is going to make sense? Because I'm putting in all the time and the effort to edit this podcast. I'm putting all the time and the effort to put it out there and showcase what I do. Does it make sense? So, and I'm sure you can relate to that as well. So yes, I've had that happen.
Oh yeah.
I've just got to be straight up and say, no, I'm sorry.
No, and it's so hard because, with some people, like, I'm like, I can love you as a person, right? And if, we can have different belief systems and I'll still have you on the podcast if I want to highlight like this business. But if it doesn't align with like what I stand for or like, because we work so hard on protecting our brand and our values and what we, what Inquisitive, yours is and like mine. And so if you just let someone on because they're telling you or they like, sometimes I'm like, I don't even care how many followers I have. Like if it doesn't rock with what I stand for, and you can always tell people like, get me on. And they'll tell me what they want to talk about. And I'm like, you have not listened to an episode ever because you would know if you did. If you did, I would never put that on. Like,
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I have that happen and they're just like, get him on the podcast. He talks about sports. I'm like, but he doesn't have a following and it's not going to make any sense because this is another thing too, Morgan, that I've really started to really like hone in on and focus. It's a big thing for somebody else to collab with you on a post because Instagram is really pushing reels and big content like that. If somebody doesn't want to collab with you on a post, like there's nothing wrong with it, but it's great because then it gives both audiences, right? Like when this comes out, we're going to collab on a post and it works both ways, right? It's like, so I'm just going to have somebody and they're just like, oh yeah, I'll tell some friends about it. It's like, well, the whole point is for you to share it because you want people to hear your story, right? So that's another thing that I deal with as well.
It's definitely hard. And I've gone through things too, where I've had people that are like, they're like about to blow up and they get on the podcast. And then once they blow up, they kind of like forget like they never met you. And then that's definitely hard for me, but I'm big on like, for sure, like love following, love collaborating, but also like if I hear someone's story and they don't even have social media and it moves me, I'm like, I'm getting you on the podcast because I don't care. Like if this is something that impacts me, it's going to impact somebody else. And so it's definitely like, you just factor in a lot of elements, people are, I'm always like, don't take it too personally or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm always like, you can start your own, like buy the guide. Start your own, brother. Like
you got it. There's a laptop right here. You don't need a camera and a mic. And Zoom and there you go. I mean, I've seen podcasts with 420p and people are putting it out there. Like now a podcast, the word podcast is just people talking to a computer microphone. It's not like it used to be. You don't have to be in a $10,000 studio or this or that, all this fancy equipment. you could just sit in a coffee shop and talk about whatever.
Right.
So, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to sound rude or mean and stuff. If people hear that, like how I went about it, but like you said, I protect my brand, you protect your brand. I really have to focus on what's in my best interest, because if I'm putting all that time and effort in, does it make sense? So that's something that I've really focused on too. But
right. And people can smell like authenticity versus something business a mile away. And so don't get me wrong, like I want to make money from the podcast and the merch and like things in the pipeline, like grow things, but also I'm like, it's about having fun. And so if not, I'm saying like, that's what the social media has to represent for me. Like, that's what like some of the core values. And so just understanding that from a perspective where if everyone I'm getting on is just a business owner who wants to promote their brand, I'm like, it's not what it's about. Like, this is the passion project. That's not the business. I mean, sometimes if I'm like, yes, let's talk about your business, how you did this and blah, 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 but that's not going to be every episode. No way. So.
No, yeah, that I can relate to as well. I mean, if you have somebody on that owns a business and they're just, wanting to build or they're just talking about how their brand or this and that and stuff, but like, does it make sense? Is it just
right?
About, there's a lot of things that go into it too, and you understand that as well. But I did see on your Instagram, and this is probably my favorite part of the show. You went.
Oh shoot!
You went to a Chiefs game when Taylor Swift was there. Let's talk about it. Spill it.
So, a few things you should know. Well, I'm a Packer fan, and we hate the Bears. And so the whole reason why I went was because the Chiefs were not playing the Packers last year, and I didn't get a chance to go to a preseason or anything. So I was like, screw it. I'll go with my friends who are Chiefs fans, and I'll just boo the Bears. I was like, I don't like either of these teams. I'm also not a Swiftie, so not a Swiftie.
I thought you were.
No, I mean, I like some of the music, but I'm also like really big conspiracy theorist, so I'm just gonna leave that there. So I'm not a Swiftie, but we were at the game, and this like Bears mom was sitting in front of us, and she was just driving me crazy the whole game. And then she said something to her friend, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, T Swift is in the house," and we're sitting here like, "What is this millennial mother talking about?" And I go on Instagram, and like next thing I know, it's everywhere. And so I think I just like took somebody's picture or something crazy. But sure enough, like Taylor Swift was like in the box, like directly in front of us. And so that was just crazy. And I'm like, I love how everyone, like my sister like went to her concert and spent so much money, and I'm sitting here like, I get to like just paid for a regular game and Taylor Swift is here. So that was wild, but then I put it into a reel and it did do well on Instagram, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. But
yeah, I saw that.
I at first was like, okay, they're kind of cute. And now, I mean, I think it's all PR. I think they're making too much money. They probably like each other in some capacity, but I don't.
No,
it's
wow.
So
yeah. I really thought you were Swiftie. I was like, oh, Morgan.
No.
I saw the Instagram stuff, and I was like,
no, sorry. Sorry if you were like gonna ask me all these great questions about it. No, I'm not a Swiftie. I don't know. I don't even know. I just think, like the more that I pursue God in my faith, the more that certain things I see at concerts like make me feel gross and weird. And especially just like I saw a clip of like the tortured poets, and her eyes are like rolling back, and it's like this white and black, like it's giving like demonic and whatnot. And so I'm just, I don't know. I feel like the fans are just kind of crazy as well a little bit. I mean, my sister is a Swiftie and like live, laugh, love. I have friends that are, but I don't know. I just think the whole thing, I'm just not into it. I'm like, I don't know. But I cried at like a Post Malone concert. So I don't know what that says about me. Like I saw Cake Boss when I was in 6th grade. Like my sister was like, One Direction. I'm like, Bunny Balastro. Like maybe I'm just different, but no, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I had a girl on my podcast though who was a big Swiftie, and she, I don't know if you saw it, she like worked a temp job at the night of the concert to get in for free at Arrowhead. And so that was I was like, girl, we got to talk about this, because like what the heck. But Yeah, no, I was just right place, right time, I guess, but not a Swiftie. So.
All good. At least you gave your honest opinion about it, because a lot of people are very afraid to say that because their fans are very passionate. The Swifties are very passionate. So
Yeah.
okay. I'm glad you opened up and shared your feelings and your thoughts. But it is cool that you still went to the game and you saw her in the box.
Yeah.
That was their first game ever. Going to Chiefs fans. So.
Yeah, and I was I'm like a Packer fan, obviously, but I'm also Joe Burrow fan. So I'm like, if I can't go home for a Packer game, maybe I'll go to a Bengals Chiefs game. Mm-hmm. The nosebleeds right now are like $300, and so I'm like, honestly, forget forget you, Taylor Swift, like whatever. So
how far do you live from Kansas City?
It's like 2.5 hours, so it's not bad. Yeah.
No, not bad at all. So living in Missouri, I actually had a tailgating with Rod. He's a diehard Chiefs fan, and he lives in Kansas City, basically. But
nice.
I heard Missouri, the barbecue's good. Is that correct?
It is correct. Yeah, KC barbecue is fire. It was kind of weird coming here because in Wisconsin everything is like steak and cheese and all the butter, and you come here and it's like chicken, sweet tea, sauces, which is good, but I'm a steak person, like stuff like that. But yeah, the barbecue here is in fact fire. So
really, yeah, I've heard the barbecue there is like so good. Mm-hmm. So you live 2 hours from Kansas City. How far are you from St. Louis?
It's almost the same. It's more like 3 hours, but Springfield, just Southwest Missouri, and it's just kind of close to all the little things and whatnot. So I'll be going to both sometimes. I haven't been to St. Louis in a while, but we go to Kansas City pretty often. So
yeah, I've never been to Kansas City, but I know the barbecue is really good. Yeah, I really want to check it out. Now the Chiefs are good. I want to check it out, but the tickets are so expensive.
I know, and it's kind of overhyped. Like, I mean, definitely. So, like, when you go to Lambeau Field, it's honestly a really awesome experience. But it's like you're putting an NFL team in the middle of like a residential neighborhood. Like, it's an awesome experience, but it's very like chill. When we win, though, we go hard. But like Arrowhead is really a different experience. It's insanely loud. You're parking wise, you're going to be there for hours. But they know how to do business model for sure. Like it's an awesome time. So
I've heard that, and I've heard that the stadium's electric, and the Royals are right there too, and it's just a great time. I saw on your Instagram, this is a really good quote from you. I want my legacy to be that people feel so heard, loved, and seen when they are with me. I want to represent Jesus as best as I can. So talk about that quote. Like, where did that even come from?
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing research. I'm just
I'm always doing research.
Yeah. I think for me, so for context, like I live in a downtown loft that's above a restaurant. And I'm friends with all kinds of people. Like, I mean, like from a Christian perspective, you'd be like every kind of sinner, right? Or whatever. Like I'm friends with all different kinds of people. And for me, like I've just learned so much about getting to know the person and not like judging by their season, right? Or their hurt or their identity that they're like, whatever someone's labeled them as or whatever. And so a lot of times, which is also crazy, is like, I'll be like loving on someone that if they walked into a church, they'd be like, oh, what are you doing here? Right? And I'm like, well, this is my friend. And people like reverse judge me. They'll be like, well, you went to this kind of college, so you probably like don't like me. I'm like, don't put words in my mouth. Like, I don't, it's weird. But, for me, I really believe like, I'm always like, if Jesus was here, he'd be friends with everyone, like he's just loving on people. And like, obviously the Bible says what it says and all the things, and that's all facts and true. But I always want to promote a culture of like, let me love you. Let me be your friend. Like, let me invite you to church. Let me be there for you. Like, I don't want you to be afraid. Like the people that are on the sidewalks that are like, you're going to hell. Like, that's just not my vibe. Like, what the Bible says is what it says. And my thing is like, if someone is not walking with the Lord and they're doing their own thing, and I want them to like be able to be like, Morgan she's a light person. She's kind. And if I need her, I'm going to call her and I can trust her. And she's a Christian that I feel like really does what the Bible says and is like, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? And so I think for me, I've had friends this past year that have told me that they've had like insane trauma with men. They've told me I'm the only Christian they've ever met that wasn't massively judging them or this and this and blah, blah, blah. And so I think for my life, like I stand on what the Bible says. Like we may disagree on what we believe, but I'm like, I'm going to love you as a person and I'm going to pray for you and I'm going to do that for you. And so it's definitely, I went to a Christian college and I've been in private schools and things like that. And sometimes there's a culture in your brain that's like, you're not judging, but you are. It's like, oh, should you really be there as a Christian, or like, should you be doing these things? And everyone has their own temptation, so you got to be careful about like what you're doing. But ultimately, I'm like, got to reach the lost. Like if I need to be kind, and I may be the only light this person has in their life. And so I always just want to show love because that's what Christ showed me. So I don't know. That was like Devo Chapel credit that I just accidentally, I'm like, but
I appreciate it.
I've experienced all kinds of people in my life that I'm like, okay, this person, you may look at them and be like, oh, they're so far from God, this and this, whatever. They're doing all the stuff. I'm like, that's my friend, like gonna love on them, gonna get to know them and try to be a light to them. So yeah, no, I don't know if that answers the question.
No, it's powerful. It's amazing. I'm really glad you shared that, because a lot of people, don't open up, and you just opened up right there, and you, like, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You may have changed somebody's day by just saying that. Somebody may hear that and they go, wow, like that person's impacted me and I didn't even know who they were. So no, I appreciate
it's good
opening up there. But this part here, I wanted to ask you, because you've been in sports like your whole life, and been around, are you a basketball fan or a football? Like, I know you're a Packers fan, but like, a basketball fan?
I'm a fan of like most things, not really soccer, unless I was like in Europe. But no, I'm a basketball fan. I'm a football fan, basketball fan, hockey fan, love ping pong, but mainly like on the professional level. I did March Madness like this year, and I did it so like corny. Like I picked the winner first and then worked backwards, which I mean, I won UConn, but I definitely messed up my entire bracket. Everything else was like a mess, but no, I love watching things live too. So like last year I went to a Bulls game for the first time in Chicago against the Grizzlies. That was awesome. I always try to go to like an NFL game a year and stuff like that, but no, I love all the sports. So I don't know.
I got to ask you this. Caitlin Clark, we got to talk a little about her. What do you think about Caitlin Clark's rise to fame in the WNBA?
Yeah. I like Caitlin Clark. I mean, I think she's great. I think I don't know. There's just, everyone has so many opinions and whatnot, but the only things I'm going to say is Caitlin Clark's bringing in more money. She's a great shooter. I do think she has really great character. And if people are going to be mad, and, I think when they try to do things around the court or whatever, I just think it looks childish. So if I was Caitlin Clark, I would just keep it moving, like stick up for yourself. Because she's opening new doors for the WNBA that weren't there before. And so people are just mad for their own reasons, but I think she's cool. I mean, do I think she's the only person that's this driving force in the WNBA? No. Like, I mean, I do think there's like 4 or 5 other like young girls that are also killing it too. But I mean, she's obviously one of the best. So yeah.
I mean, just for what she's been able to do as a rookie, and a lot of people hate on her too, and just let alone what she just did in college basketball. She just broke the women's and men's all-time record.
Yeah.
Just watching her, she's just fun. And she's just got a little bit of swagger to her. I mean, we haven't seen like that Kobe mentality yet in the WNBA. We saw it in college, but just watching her even in the WNBA, it's like we've never really seen a player like this. I mean, in the NBA, we saw Steph Curry's rise to fame.
Yeah.
We're seeing Caitlin Clark, just shooting from behind the 3 line, and she's just fun. So I think you just made some great points.
Yeah.
There. I love it. I think it's awesome. She's growing the game. She's bringing in more revenue. I think they were crazy to leave her off the Olympics, U.S. women's.
I agree. Yeah.
Roster. That was insane. But, they're very traditional, and a lot of people are just jealous of her because, like I said, I've never seen a player like this. So I think it's fun, and I think she's only going to continue to grow the game.
I agree. And haters stay mad. Like, I mean, that's what, that's just how it goes sometimes, is the people that are like the most jealous are the ones that are just like, they hate you for no reason. So it's like, Caitlin, just keep it moving, because, I always say the quote where it's like the lightness always overpowers the darkness. So things that people like do behind the scenes or like it always comes to light. So if you just keep your character 100, like God's got you, so you're good.
Well,
But
another thing too, Morgan, is Angel Reese. I'm sure you've heard of her, the girl
Yeah.
from LSU, the whole thing, hand in her face. She's on the Chicago Sky now, and the Indiana Fever in the Chicago Sky. That game for the WNBA was most watched game in 23 years for the WNBA. So
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark must be doing something right, and I'll give Angel Reese some flowers as well because she puts herself out there with the media. She likes to yap a lot, which we all know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, they're bringing light to it. They're bringing attention to the game that it never got before, and now they're getting people to talk about it. So they're doing something right.
Oh yeah, and I mean even on like TikTok and social media, it's like all the little younger boys like have their basketball crush and they're like watching the games, and it's like no one was doing that, no one was watching the games and talking about it, and now people are really like locked in and they're following Caitlin and all the other players, and I don't know. So I think it's awesome. I think it's good stuff, and Caitlin I'm excited to see her keep playing. So
yeah, me too, and I'm excited for football season coming up too. I know you're a Packers fan. I'm actually a Patriots fan. I don't think you can hate on us that much because we're really not rivals. It'd be different if I was like a Bears fan or I was in the NFC and like I was
right. So are you like a Tom Brady? Are you like a Tom Brady like follower type of thing, or?
I got some Tom Brady stuff on the wall back there.
Oh, okay.
I'm a huge Brady guy.
So the roast, how did that make you feel?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was great. I thought it was really cool to see them roast Brady because he's been so serious for 20. He was in the NFL for 23 seasons, 20 with the Patriots. So it was fun to see him like get roasted and it was just very loose, and he was sitting there. I loved it. I thought it was fun. Did you watch it?
I watched parts of it. I thought it was hilarious too. I don't know. It's always the ones when like someone says like a really off joke and like nobody kind of laughs. So I'm always like, ooh. But yeah, the one girl, I can't remember her name, but she always has me dead. Yeah.
Yeah, she was something else. And, Brady, Kim Kardashian was there. She got roasted.
Yeah. No, she got roasted and she wasn't even trying to roast. When the crowd just booed her, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I'm glad I got a chance to watch it. But even last week, though, Tom Brady got his flowers. He finally got his jersey retired by the Patriots, which was awesome. Can finally put that case to rest, or put that to rest now. Finally, it'd be because all those years, Brady was in New England, and now it's all over. It's great. So he got his jersey retired. He's in the Patriots Hall of Fame. So the case is closed. I'm happy it's over with, but huge Patriots fan. You're a Packers fan, so it'd be cool to see what they do this year. I mean, in the playoffs last year against the Niners. I thought they were going to pull that out at the end. I really did. Yeah,
I mean, towards the end there, I'm not really a Rodgers fan. I mean, we liked him when he was humble. And then, I don't know, I really like Jordan Love, and I really like the rookie vibe and how they just really go for it. I mean, what do they have to lose? And the way that they got so ahead in the playoffs, I was just like so proud of them.
Yep.
They beat the Chiefs, and I was like, I won my Super Bowl. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm good.
They did beat. Yes, they did in Lambeau, Sunday night game.
Oh yeah, that was like one of the best days of my life.
And they don't play that often either. So it was a good one.
Oh yeah. So I don't know. I'm excited to see what they bring to the table this year. I mean, obviously seeing Aaron Jones leave was gutting, especially to the Vikings. But whatever.
So what do you?
We'll get him back.
Yeah, right. So what do you like to do in your free time when you're not podcasting, or you're not working on your business? Like, what do you do? Do you just kind of clear your head, or just like, what do you like to do in your free time?
Yeah, great question. So I work out all the time because I literally have to mentally. I mean, in Missouri, it's kind of gray. So I have a gym that has like a hot tub and a sauna that's in the women's locker room, which is so awesome. And so I do that to like unwind. I skateboard quite a bit. I love the outdoors. So always like kayaking, swimming, hiking, that kind of vibe. Or there's shout out to Classics Yard. They're like a sports game center here in town. So we play a lot of games and like pickleball, ping pong there. So I also have a small group here. So we do a lot of stuff like that. Kind of want to do more with the homeless downtown here too, since it's just like there's a lot of homeless and they're all around me. And so just kind of wanting to help spread the gospel to them and also just like help them with stuff. And so, yeah, I don't know, always staying busy. There's always like, once you're in Springfield, and especially if you're downtown, everyone kind of knows everybody. So I'll just frolic around and just get a drink or like get dinner and chat to people. So I don't know. Somehow I just stay busy, but I do want to travel more once I have more money to travel. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I think it's really important to find that healthy balance between, podcasting, social media, and marketing, and presenting your business because, at the end of the day, we're just humans, right? Like, you got to be able to have fun and develop that barrier. It's nice to just have that, I'm just going to shut it off this weekend. I'm just going to have fun with friends.
Right.
And I think it's like you do the podcast bi-weekly, so you have that time in between to just kind of, relax, have fun. And if you're networking at the time being, that's great. You're getting one step better than you were before.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah, and especially coming back from church camp, there was like no service there. And I loved it. And so it's hard because literally it's like we have the podcast and then I have a social media business. But I am actually trying to really stay off social media once I'm clocked out, and like I'll just advertise my stuff, but I'm not really trying to, which is so hard because like as a marketer, you're always having to like do research and stuff like that. And like, no, but I'm like, I can do research and also not be chronically online. Like I want to read more audiobooks and read books and like be more intentional with like dinners and phone calls. Like I don't need to be wrapped up in like another TikTok. Like I'm just like, I'm good. So I don't know. I'm actually working on that. So I don't know. But
no, that it's important to, like I said, going back to that healthy balance is important. Like I can shut the phone off. I can do what I need to do. Make step away from a little bit. It's not going anywhere. Even if you posted your 3 clips, if you just keep scrolling all day or in your free time, oh my gosh, you can scroll forever now. Like it's like it's like Buzz Lightyear to infinity and beyond. Like you cannot stop scrolling. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, and it's like what we consume, and that's like one thing I'm also kind of working on because it's like I love Kendrick Lamar and I love like rap music, but a lot of times it pulls out like this anger out of me that it pulls out like unforgiveness or like hatred towards things in the past, and I'm like I don't need this. Like I'm trying to like fill my mind with things that are productive or light or like life-giving, and I'm just like I don't need to see. I recently realized like so much of the music I listen to I'm like, this is not benefiting me in any way. So I'm really trying to like kind of nitpick in my life. Like what are loose ends I can tie up? Like what do I have control over that I can really like help cultivate my mindset? Because if you don't, like anything can come in and affect you. And I'm an emotional person. So I'm like, I don't need it to affect me. I want to be able to say like, I'm good,
Your brain is so powerful. It can be moving in so many different directions. You'll be thinking about one thing, and then the next second later, you're thinking about something else. And you're on your phone, and you're just like, it can just it's crazy how your brain goes.
Oh yeah,
I can relate to that too. I don't listen to as much rap music as I used to. I honestly listen to a lot of country music.
Nice. What's the number one? What's your country artist?
Right now, I mean, this is so mainstream, but I don't care. I mean, I'm a big Morgan Wallen guy.
Oh, okay.
I like Luke Combs too, though. I really like Luke.
I thought you were gonna say Zach Bryan for sure. Like I like Zach Bryan. He's probably like my number one. But
I like Zach Bryan. He's close. I mean, I've really started to take a deeper dive into his music. Before I was like, it's so slow and like very mellow, but like it's so good. Like it's so good. Like it's just chill vibes. But no, Morgan is probably my number one. I like Luke Combs. I like a lot of old country too. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with like Kenny Chesney, even some George Strait.
Yeah.
I'm a big country guy. Even though I don't wear boots and the cowboy hat, I just like country music. Locked in.
There you go. I probably have all the boots and the country hats just when I want to like be in that like vibe, but I listen to some
country music, and the country vibe is so popular.
It is, yeah.
I mean, before everyone was like, "You like country music?" Ew. Now it's like Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, Zach Bryan.
I know. And it's always weird when they like start dating influencers, and then it's like everything, even like the Taylor and Travis, like it's like things are like, okay, why,
Right. Well,
it's just like worlds colliding, and I don't know how I feel about it. So
Zach Bryan and Brianna Chicken Fry from Barstool, they're dating.
Yes.
So there you go. Yeah, I mean it's weird, but before no one listened. I mean, older people listen to country music, but now everybody listens to country music. So
right.
I mean, now you're seeing Post Malone and Morgan Wallen collab. Blake Shelton and Post Malone are collabing. New song is coming out June 20th. So it's like country is taking over. It really is. But it's like
it really has, and it is cool for country. It is cool. Now, Beyonce's in there too now. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. So
that song was catchy when it first came out, but now Texas Hold'em. But now, it's Texas Hold'em, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Now it's like But
I know I haven't even heard it in a while. So
Morgan Wallen's new song, "I Had Some Help with Post."
I think I have. Yeah.
That's a catchy song, but it's good. And like that's like more of like pop country though. It's like that's what's kind of in right now, and it feels like that's what's taking over the country music.
I agree. Yeah, I do agree with that. Morgan Wallen, the only thing that I think is kind of icky about him is like how he treats women. I feel like the girly pops, that's the only thing that I'm like, bro, but his music is good. But I think they like hit a certain time when it's like the concert tickets get so expensive that I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, the concert tickets are crazy.
He's
so popular now. It's insane how before he was popular, but now it's like on a whole nother level.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. But as always, for my guests, I always do 5 questions to end the show. So the first question, yeah, always. I've done this since probably I don't even know, episode 10 or 11. It's just something that we started doing, and I've kind of stuck with it. First question for you: what motivates you?
Oh, wow, deep one. Well, definitely Jesus. I mean, that's kind of whatever answer, but a year ago, everything changed for me again, my priorities. It wasn't always that as the case. And so people are always going to fail you. Life is going to fail you. But I think he's the way he's changed my heart and everything, that's my number one motivating factor. Because if not, I would just be going after everything that I think I want, but he knows best. So I would say Jesus, and also love God, love others, right? So it's loving people. So Jesus is okay, let's do life. Let's show me what you want from me, this and this. And then after that, it's how do I help people? Whether it's I love the podcast, but my friends or other people, just having that desire, and my heart breaks for certain people and certain things and whatnot. So I guess that would be my motivating, whatever God wants for me. That's when I'm the most filled. So I don't know.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Okay, I'm 25. So, hopefully in a relationship. Hopefully not in Springfield. I don't know. I would hope that in 5 years I could see myself the business doing well, the podcast much, much bigger. Hopefully in a relationship, maybe married, I don't know. But I also kind of see myself doing some ministry too, maybe traveling, speaking, or whatever. I don't know. So whatever God wants, but I could see those things. So hopefully growth, a lot can happen in 5 years. So
absolutely.
I don't know.
Who is your celebrity crush?
Oh, I have a lot. Okay, well, I usually say Vinny Hacker, but also the Chase Crawford, this one guy from Gossip Girl. I think he's cute too.
Yes.
Yeah,
he was just on Call Her Daddy.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. I think he's also on Jimmy Kimmel or something. Yeah, so I think he's super cute. But
Chase Crawford. Yeah, that's Nate Archibald from Gossip Girl.
Nate Archibald. Okay. Joey's a Gossip Girl guy. Okay.
Huge Gossip
All right.
Girl.
Okay. That's awesome.
What is your proudest accomplishment, and why does it hold so much meaning?
Oh gosh. So I don't know how your brain works. So whenever you ask me these questions, I'm like, do I go serious or do I go goofy? Because I could just be so, it's proudest accomplishment. Gosh, I don't even know. I don't know. I feel this is gonna sound kind of dumb, but there's so many things that has happened and has been so amazing. But I think when I went through that really hard season with having a puking problem and being really skinny and being unhealthy and being in awful heartbreak situations and things that were said about me and all this, I feel and even this past year I had a really, really not great job that was sucking the life out of me, and you just get in these really low places. And I think my accomplishment is because of that, I didn't let that define who I was. And I know starting the podcast in the beginning stages, I had a lot of comments being what is this? This is cringe. Why is Morgan doing this? Like, blah, 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 blah. And so when I look at the podcast now and I know like the people that it's helped, like, it, you know, inspired our small group, like all these things, like seeing lives come to Jesus, like all these things, I'm like, I think that's my accomplishment, is that I turned, not even me, like God, like turned all this brokenness into something that's truly helping and is something that I believe is like very beautiful, and standing on that. And so I don't know, it's not, you know, on your resume you typically write like, oh, when I closed 400 B2B sales, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you know, for me, it was just kind of like turning something that was so awful into something, like letting God make it so beautiful, and just kind of like listening and waiting on that. So I don't know. I mean, to know that like over 60 people like have my merch and they wear it, and people listen that I don't know in different countries. I mean, to me, that just like warms my heart. So I don't know.
I love that. No, that's a great way to put it. You don't have one exact proud. You don't have one exact proud accomplishment. There's so many things that tie to the purpose. So, what is your spiciest opinion that people disagree with you about?
My spiciest opinion.
Or I can always rephrase it, and I can always say, "What is your hottest take?"
I'm just like, how deep do I want to go? Well, I mean, I like believe in the Illuminati, and so if you go down that rabbit hole, there's like a lot of different crazy things you can believe. Okay, you know what? Let's not go that route. Let's do this. We had a thing at my work that I brought up, and it was like, does a straw have one or two holes? And I think it has two holes.
Straw has one. It has to have one.
Yeah, but if you close one of the holes, then you can't really use the straw because there's another hole. Like I can still pick up water and stuff like that. So
I have a straw right here. I have a straw right here in a Stanley.
Okay.
Oh wait. Oh my gosh. There's one.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two. So
yeah. So that's my hot take, is that there's two holes in a straw. But the way that I put it on my story, and I had like so many DMs in there being like, Morgan, please tell me you believe in one hole because we can't be friends, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, no, there's two holes. So
after looking at it, my first initial thought was, there's two.
I know, right?
Why is it so hard to put together? Literally, I just showed it.
Because like people think like when you cut it, it's like one hole. But I don't know. So that's my hot take, is that there's two holes in a straw. So.
Yes, there's two holes. We just put the evidence right out there. We'll put it right.
Thank you.
We're putting it right up to the camera so everybody can see. There's one.
There you go.
Let it focus, and there's two.
There we go.
How do people misinterpret that? There's two.
We live in a crazy world.
All right. Well, you know what? I think that's a great way to cap it off. I think.
There you go.
Right. So, before we officially wrap up, you got to let listeners know where they can find you. Plug the socials.
100%. Thank you so much. My personal is Kashhh Money Morgan with a K, and then Keeping Up with Kashhh on Instagram with 4 H's at the end. The podcast is on Spotify, Apple. It's on everywhere. YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. If you want merch, just send me a DM or click the pre-order link or whatever. But yeah, we always say on Keeping Up with Kashhh, good people listen to good podcasts. So continue to listen to both of our podcasts. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it was a pleasure to have you on the show. Guys, as always, the Inquisitive Mamba Podcast is on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast. And it was a pleasure to have Morgan Pagel on the podcast. She is the host of Keeping Up with Kashhh. You can find her podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. She posts Instagram clips as well. They come out bi-weekly. And you can just keep up with her on her personal Instagram.
Boom. Well, thank you so much, Joey, for having me on. This has been so fun, and I can't wait to keep tuning in. So
yeah, I can't wait to tune into your podcast. You'll definitely have to let me know when. I know I can find it on Apple and Spotify and also the clips, but I'll definitely be tuning in and letting my friends know about it. So when did the next episode drop? Is it next?
This Friday. So they drop this Friday at 12 a.m. Central Standard Time. I'm also like, I'm always like one episode ahead or stuff like that. But after church camp, I had so many requests of like, do a recap. So we're doing a recap this Friday. So yeah,
I'll be listening.
Be able to tune in.
I'll be tuning in. I'll be listening. So
awesome.
Friday. Well, thanks again for coming on. It was a pleasure, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Sounds good. Bye, guys. Thanks again.